Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the MonsterCast podcast with me, Mason Paul, and Cameron Miguez. If you just tuned in with actually Shane a few minutes back, he was actually outside of the Dirt Crew Racing's establishment going on there, showing a little bit of stuff going on for them during this whole quarantine. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Cameron, what about you? How are you doing this fine early evening today?
Well, let's see. How am I doing? Oh, hell, I don't know. Nobody cares. No, I'm good. How are you tonight? So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in a little early tonight. BJ Johnson has been driving an end dump, so he has to go to work at like 2 a.m. So he has to go to bed early. So they asked if they were going to be on tonight, if we could have them on early. So we said, sure, why not? But what's up with you, Mr. Mason? What do you got going over there in computer land?
Nothing much. Actually getting ready for a Monsterama event coming up tomorrow. The times, as it sounds so far, I believe they're going to be going on 8 Eastern Standard or 8:30 Eastern Standard. We're making sure all of our drivers and people coming on, hopefully live, will be able to be there for the whole event throughout. It's going to be on the Atlanta 2016 track. It's looked really fun. I got to do a little bit of a practice run, kind of get my feet wet because I just played the game for fun, never competition-wise. So this is a new one for me, and can't wait to see all the people that are going to be there. I know my friend Buddha's going to be there, your son Nick, Kristen's going to be there, bunch of different names. So can't really list them all just here, but it's going to be a good time.
Well, is there a slight chance of a guest commentator? A slight chance, possible guest commentator on this?
I mean, I know the right people to talk to, and I can point you in the right direction. That would be pretty awesome. Actually have an announcer on, so a big step up. It would actually have an announcer for a few shows, so that would definitely be a huge step up.
I think I could announce one of those. I don't know. We'll see. So maybe we'll have to talk to people. So call your people. I'll have you get in touch with my people, and maybe we can work something out. But that's neither here nor there. So let's move on to the matter at hand. The lovely couple that we have on tonight, Mr. BJ and Lindsey Johnson.
Hey guys.
Hey guys.
How you doing?
Mr. BJ and Lindsey Johnson. How are we, kids?
Doing pretty good.
Doing good.
Well, so how's quarantine? I mean, obviously Lindsay's with child, so we know what you guys been doing to pass the time, but how's quarantine 2020 been so far?
Actually busy. So when I started my new job, I never stopped. So I was down a week, and I actually did more. I did more in a week here at the house doing honey-do lists, and I was begging someone to please give me a job so I could go back to work because I couldn't take it no more being here. But no, I've been busy. We both have been pretty busy.
Well, I just want to say that we had both of you on when we did the shelter-in-place game, but haven't had to go. So congratulations to both of you on the new baby that's on the way. When's the baby due?
September 30th.
September 30th. If you could speed that up a few days, that way you can hit my birthday, that would be great.
Trust me, I'm ready to come out now.
You're not even close.
It's not amazing.
You are not even close. I know my wife was pregnant with our second kid, and she was born in August. And my wife was out there like 8 months pregnant. We were painting the house on the outside. So, yeah, summertime pregnancy. Although I've never had it, I simulate it with my belly. So, well, let's. What's that?
That thankfully we have a pool.
Oh well, hell, I'm coming to Florida.
All right, come on.
So let's talk monster trucks a little bit. I mean, you guys watch that clip. We all got to miss the sound and the sights of it. But Lindsey, I want to start with you. Let's go ladies first. What people don't know about you, I mean, you've been a pit party coordinator for Feld for the past couple of years. But before that, for many years, you were crew chief for many trucks, BJ. And I remember when I met you, you were crewing for Scott Buteau and Iron Man. So talk about how you did that, how you started out crewing, how you got into doing it.
Okay, so I used to do construction with my dad growing up on the weekends. We've always had lifted trucks and four-wheelers and dirt bikes. Well, it turns out we actually helped build Jim Kohler with the Avenger, his shop. So we were always around there and kind of checking out the trucks. And he's like, if you guys are interested, why don't you come on the road with us? So I was in my senior year of high school. And luckily I had good grades. So my mom let me miss out a lot of Fridays and Mondays of school. And I travel all over with Jim Kohler and Chris Bergeron. Then I knew this wasn't going to be a forever gig. So I went to college, got a business degree, and then realized I hated sitting in an office, being in one spot all the time, and it was absolutely miserable. So I called up Dave Allison, and he talked to Mike Wales, and they agreed to hire me. So I moved to Illinois and started working on trucks full time.
So now, what was the first team you actually got to crew for when you went over to Feld?
It was Scott Buteau and Charles Benz with Monster Milk Rottweiler.
Oh, okay. So now, I mean, go ahead.
So that was interesting. So I was with them for a year, and then after that, I moved to Medusa, and I was with Medusa for 3 years, I think. And then I finally got to a point that I was sick of traveling, doing the same job, but we were never together ever. So we talked to the company and said that we wanted to be teamed up together, and they finally put us together. And that's when he was driving Mohawk Warrior.
Well, so like I said, you were a hell of a crew chief. I mean, I watched you change, any part any guy could change. So anybody says a girl can't do this can pretty much kiss my ass because you proved that. And several others. I mean, I remember a young lady named Katie, Becky McDonough. I mean, there's been a lot of them that have rolled through and been awesome. But so what made you made the change then from crewing for BJ and then went into being a pit party coordinator, which to me is a hell of a lot more of a pain in the ass than working on trucks.
It had its ups and downs. I loved the management so much more with pit party coordinator. I loved working on the trucks. I ended up breaking my ankle really bad in 2017, which pretty much made me step aside. I had to have pins and rods and all kinds of stuff put in my ankle. And I was getting to the point I was getting closer to 30 and we've been wanting babies. And I knew that just wasn't the lifestyle to have kids. I don't want to be on the road with them 24/7, especially working for that company. So I did a lot of, self-thinking of different things that we could do. I've always loved real estate, so I jumped into doing real estate, and then at that time they needed a pit party coordinator too. So I was actually able to sell real estate during the week and then travel and do pit parties on the weekend, and it was pretty awesome. It was like the best of both worlds.
Who knew that trying to make a baby could be so hard on your ankle?
And her knee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, gee,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, they make things that you can use to make things safer for everybody involved.
Where's the fun in that?
Well, it's apparently not in a cast on crutches. That's where it's not. All right. Well, BJ, before we get to talking about you, superstar, we have a little segment on here now with a gentleman by the name of Christopher Allen, who does our fun fact of the week about our guest. So here's what Christopher had to say about BJ Johnson.
Hi, Monster Truck fans. Christopher Allen, aka the Monster Truck Guru, back again for episode number 4 of Monster Truck Fact of the Week. This go around about BJ and Lindsey Johnson. Before finding his footing in Monster Jam and Gas Monkey Garage, BJ drove for Bill Payne, California Kid to be precise, back when the Straight Up Racing Team founder had just a 2-truck operation, Rockstar and Cali Kid. As far as Lindsey goes, Monster Trucks run in the family, as her father, Rich Hildedorf, notably drove Spike Unleashed for Jim Kohler during that truck's run. In the fall of 2014, BJ and Lindsey made the super long plane ride down to Adelaide, Australia. BJ was filling in for an injured Medusa, and Lindsey was turning the wrenches. The pair went on to win the event, but that was followed by a long dry spell that finally ended in spring 2016, a full year and a half after victory down under in Salinas, California. I sincerely hope you've been enjoying these Monster Truck Fact of the Week, folks. For excellent Monster Truck Show coverage from all across the West, Monster Trucking with Jim and Chris on Facebook and Instagram await you. Thanks for watching. Please come back next week. Don't forget to like this page for upcoming episodes. And remember, Monster Trucks forever!
Well, do you ever sit and wonder how people know more about you than you do?
Yeah.
You did some research on that one.
Well, the sad thing is that kid doesn't have to. He's got it all in his head. I mean, that kid knows so much about monster trucks. It's awesome. It's why we had to get him involved, because he knows 1,000 times more than I do. And part of it's because I don't remember shit. But
Can't see,
what's that?
and you can't see nothing, so it doesn't.
I can't see nothing. So I don't know exactly what that has to do with my memory, but I guess if I didn't see it, I can't remember it.
That's right.
But all right, douche nozzle, let's get to you and talk about your career, starting out with Billy Payne and moving around there. How'd that work?
So it was actually really good. When I first started with Craig, just traveling the road, I met so many different people, so many different teams we ran with, and became pretty good friends with a lot of guys like Lindsey Wink and Don Frankish. I mean, we did a lot in Canada. And when I left with Craig, I went to work for Paul. Worked for Paul Schaefer, ran for him for a while. Same thing. So I never ran really on the East Coast. I only ran the West Coast. When I went to work for Paul, I was running the East Coast. So it was a whole new group of people I met. And kind of took a break there for a while. Filled in some driving here and there with Scott Anderson. And I actually was in a show in Washington. It was the first week Bill Payne bought those Jeeps from Jeff Boehner. And they wouldn't run long enough to get off the trailer. And no one liked Bill, and for some reason, everybody had this thing out for Bill because he had got the Jeeps and he was tearing them up and not taking care of them. And we were in a fairgrounds in the middle of the night one night, and I just happened to walk over there and I said, "Hey, man, you need some help?" And he had nobody. It was him and a dog. And he says, "Yeah, I can't get this truck running." So we messed with it half the night, and I said, "Listen, why don't you not worry about the one? Let's just worry about one and not worry about both of them." So we ended up getting both of them going, but the one was just making a paycheck, and the other one, Bill, was just tearing it up. So him and I became pretty good friends, and we always talked to each other. And him, Donald Up and Indio, all those guys, you know. And I was tattooing. I was not driving for a while, and Bill called me up, and he was needing a driver. And the California Kid truck, everybody that drove it crashed it, and it was having nothing but problems. And he asked me if I'd come bail him out again, and we just kind of laughed. And I said, "Let me come up there." So I went to Washington, and the first day I got in the shop, the body was off the truck and the truck was up on jack stands. And Bill says, well, there it is. What do you think? And I was kind of looking at it and I said, man, there's some things in there I don't really like. Bill says, well, it's yours. You can do whatever you want. So I think the first week I worked for Bill, we almost cut that truck in half and cut everything off of it and changed a whole bunch of stuff around. He didn't care. Him and Lorna were great. I lived with them. I stayed in the spare bedroom at their house. And the 1 month of helping Bill out ended up being almost a year, and we had a blast. We built semis, and all the crazy stuff you see he has now, he was the same way years ago. I mean, if he has I don't think the guy ever sleeps. If he has a crazy idea in his mind, he does it. I mean, we would get up at 5 a.m. just because he's like, hey, I got this idea and I need to get to the shop. I'm just like, dude, I'm not a morning person, man. What are we doing? So we go to the shop and we mess around and build something. It might not work and we just throw it away. And he just keep messing with it. And we throw it in the trailer and take it on the road with us and try to figure it out. And everyone needs to realize that, Bill and Lorna, they don't have a big corporate backing. They don't have anybody but themselves. All them rigs that you see and all those trailers that you see and all that stuff that he's got, those two have gotten it on their own. And my hat's off to them. Those guys have busted their ass to get what they've got. And they've got some really nice stuff now. And they've got a fleet of trucks and ride trucks. And he's making parts for trucks now. And he's got tanks.
Tanks.
Between him and Donald Eppendidio, you never know what them two are going to find. Donald will find something and just send it to Bill because he knows Bill won't sleep and he'll put it together and destroy it or do something with it. I mean, he's just an all-around good guy. I don't see him anymore. It's been years since I've seen Bill, but we still talk probably maybe once a week or maybe once a month. Out of nowhere, he'll just call, and I was working for him and got a phone call. It's funny because she got the same phone call. Mike Wells called me, and I'd been talking to Mike Christensen. And when I worked for his dad, Mikey grew up with me. So he says Mike was looking for somebody, and they had been talking to me once before years ago, but at the time it just wasn't going to work out. So Mike offered me a job, and he told me, he says, I know you're driving a truck, and we just went to a 4-truck team with Bill. So I didn't really want to put Bill out. And I sat Bill and Lorna down and I said, hey, I want to talk to you guys about going to work for Monster Jam. I said, they offered me a job. And I don't even think I got that sentence out of my mouth. And Bill's like stood up and gave me a hug. He says, yeah, man, go. You got to go. He says, I know that's what you work for. You got to go. You've helped me out enough. So I left on good terms with them and went to work for Monster Jam. But my deal with them was I wasn't going to drive when I first got a job there. So I was going to give up a driving job to go back to crewing. So to me, it was, you got to start at the bottom. My mouth gets me in trouble a lot, and trust me. And I think that you got to earn your spot to drive. There's a lot of people that say, I need to be a driver. I need to be a driver. You don't even know how to put fuel in the truck. I don't think you should be in it. You need to be able to work on it. You need to be able to tell your crew what's going on with it because you should know yourself. So I didn't have a problem going and crewing again. I'd crewed before, and I'd crewed for Paul's trucks. And if we weren't racing, I'd go crew for other people. I mean, it didn't matter. I've crewed for a lot of different people. And I went and crewed for almost a year for Monster Jam and worked on Candace Jolly's truck. Had a blast. Traveled with Mike Christensen and his brother and Lindsey. I mean, all of us failed. We were just running, and that time we were still driving the semis. So it was go, 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 go.
It used to be really fun back then.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun because we were just driving the rigs and go show to show and fix our stuff. And I built Candace a new truck, and she drove it for a while. And then they came to me and told me that they needed to have another Mohawk Warrior truck because George Bellhannon made that one so popular that they wanted another one. And I've had a Mohawk since I was 18, and I kind of fit the image. And we sat down and talked, and I got my ride.
Well, going back talking about Bill Payne, I mean, he's a goofball and he's insane behind the wheel, but he really is one of the smartest guys in this business. And it's cool to watch him go from just the Jeeps and just being this guy trying to figure it out to, he does he's making a lot of parts. I mean, we actually just put a couple of his planetaries and steering rams on Bounty. Couldn't tell you how they work. I mean, it loaded in and out of the trailer fine. But past that, we haven't got to do anything with them, but they seem to work. So Bill's a great guy, but making that transition to Feld, I mean, how different was it? I mean, like you said, I guess back then it really wasn't as much difference as you're still running the rigs up and down the road and all that stuff. But then you make the transition to flying in, and how nice was that?
At first, when I first went to work there, I was in the Aurora shop right before it closed. Like we were only there. I was in there maybe 4 months, and we drove the semis and did all that stuff. And then they said, well, if it's a long haul, we won't have you guys do it. We'll put you on a plane, whatever. And we're like, man, it's gonna be great. We fly. Everybody's like, oh man, we want to fly. The airport gets old real quick. We had more fun driving the rigs down the road, and you can ask anybody, Cody Saucier, Cole Bernard, any of us that were all together. We had more fun in them semis and traveling, and it was a lot more work because you got to figure we drove day and night to get where we were at. We worked day and night on the trucks, and then the minute those trucks were done with the show, we'd shovel them back in the trailer, and then we would leave that night. And it was, yeah, we were the corporate guys. Everybody says, oh, we're the corporate world. We have hotels and stuff, but yeah, I mean, usually a Saturday night, if it was a Saturday night only show, we didn't have a hotel room Saturday night. We had a hotel hell is what we always called it. We just jumped in the rigs and took off, and so then it was fly here, fly here, fly here. I'd much rather drive the rig. That's why I'm driving rigs now. I'd rather run up and down the freeway and the highways and seeing stuff than seeing the same old airports and the same old thing. It's nice because you can get somewhere real quick, but it gets old. It's just not the life for me. I'd rather not be in an airport 24/7 because, I mean, we were doing hundreds of thousands of miles in a year on an airplane, 17, 18-hour trips on an airplane. If you've never been 17 hours on an airplane, you want to just open the door and jump out. You don't even care where you're at. You want out of that thing.
10 and a half is the longest I've done.
Go to Australia.
Yeah.
No, I did Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 8.5, and I did 10.5 to Argentina. So that was long enough. And I hate flying anyway.
Yeah, the
but
first time I went to Australia, it was just for Sydney. So you flew like 18 hours and then had a layover and another 3 hours to get to wherever you're going. And then we were there 3 or 4 days.
3 days.
And then all the way back again. It's a lot.
Yeah, no thanks. I'll take a 24-hour trip in the rig and go to a show and turn around and get back in the rig for the 24 hours before I do that. What's that?
That you get to see so much more.
Well, some people get to see more.
Different. Well,
some people get to see more. Some of us just stare at a windshield. Some of us don't get to see as much as everybody else, but whatever. Anyway.
Yeah,
so
float in the bed in the sleeper. That's what she saw.
Yeah.
But,
never mind it.
I see the windshield. It's just everything's too far away.
There might be a bug on the window. I can't tell.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't bother me. So then you move into Gas Monkey. So how did that work with Gas Monkey and Richard Rollins, and how cool is that to be hooking up with a big TV show vehicle now?
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting. So I was running the Mohawk truck. Lindsey's working on it, repairing it, keeping it the way we wanted it. And it was brought to our attention that this Gas Monkey deal was coming up. And they had a bunch of different bodies they were going to try to choose, and they're trying to figure out who they were going to put in it, what body they were going to do. And this was like about a year-long project. And I just happened to overhear it. And I said, man, and all I said was, I watched that TV show. I said, it's pretty cool because I do kind of what they do. If I'm at home, I'm tinkering around on hot rods or cars or whatever. We're building something or we're fabricating something. And I like it because the guys on I didn't know at the time, but the guys on the show are the ones doing everything. So I thought it was cool. And so we talked about it. And then being the corporate world that we were in, they said, hey, we need you to take some headshots, and you might have to cut your hair. You got to do these hairstyles. You got to change your whole wardrobe. You got to change.
They
this
wanted
and
to
change
find
that.
an image for him.
Yeah, I had to have an image to go to work to see if Richard was going to have me drive. And so we did some headshots, and I fought the whole haircutting thing. And I said, listen, I'll cut my hair down, but I'm not cutting it off, and I'm not doing some crazy hairdos that you're wanting me to do. I'm not doing some 50s punk rock thing. I'm like, it's just me. Okay.
So there's a stylist that works for Feld.
And she's awesome.
She is. She's awesome. And they give her a bunch of things and trying to find the image. They sent us, we were up in Paxton, Illinois, working up there, and they sent us this box of clothes, and it was,
I didn't even put some of it on.
it was interesting. No, very, very interesting. We're like, if you got to change this much for an image, like, this is not worth it, because it was not the Gas Monkey style. Like, we watch a show. we know what it is. It's black t-shirts, tattoos, and working on trucks. Like, that's all it is. And it was interesting, the process and the things and the headshots that he had to do and little promo videos. And
yeah, I did a bunch of stuff for the company. They sent it in along with some other drivers, and Richard's people actually picked me. And so we were out running around doing some stuff, and we were in Dallas. We were in Houston
doing displays.
And it was my birthday weekend. And she goes, "Hey, let's run to Gas Monkey. Let's just go up there." And it's like, all right, it ain't that far. And we had time to kill, so we ran up there and got to the shop, met Richard. Richard's like, "Oh man, I'm glad you came by," and hung out with everybody and actually got to see the behind the scenes of the filming. But I always tell everybody, what you see on that show is actually what they do. At the time, the 8 guys, back then it was a lot. The 8 guys that worked on the trucks or the cars is on the TV show is actually the people that build them. It's not They leave at 5 o'clock and somebody else builds them like other TV shows we've done.
Right.
These guys, it was legit, and that's what I liked. And with Richard, if he said, "Hey, it's a $100,000 budget and we're doing it in 14 days," he was dead serious. Those guys would sleep there if they had to. They had 14 days and they only had that much money. They didn't put any more money into it, and they didn't add any more days to filming. That's just how it worked. So it worked out good. And like we talked, and I said, "Man, we're the same way. We've got like 2 days and we have to do our stuff." And he goes, "Well, I'm the same way. I'm not gonna lie to anybody about it." And a lot of people say, Richard Rollins is an ass and he's rude to people, and he's not. That guy would give you the shirt off his back. He's always been great to us, and he's been great to the fans that are there and the people that he sees. There's some people they think he might have been rude to. He has a lot of stuff going on. He's got a lot more stuff going on than people think. And and Richard says, "Hey, give me 5 minutes, I'm on the phone." People get upset. Well, in 5 minutes, he comes back and he'll sit and talk and take autographs or do autographs, take pictures with everybody out inside the shop. If he tells him he'll be back in 5 minutes, he doesn't lie to anybody, but he's just a busy person. And it was great. The relationship that we had, and we joked around, and anytime we were in town, we could go there and work. And we became really good friends with a lot of guys in the shop. I still talk to a lot of them. I still run into Sleeveless Charles and Jeremy, and hung out with Alex Laughlin and Jason. All them guys. Tony, there's a lot of the guys that's left the show, and it's TV. It happens, but we met a lot of people through that TV show, and we're still friends today with them. But it was good the first time we went there so they could actually see the truck, because we built that truck in like 14 days or 15 days. And I'm talking from the ground up. When we loaded it in the trailer, the body was still wet. They just got it painted. We had just loaded it and took off. So when we actually did the TV show the very first time with the truck, we drove it out on the TV show on Fast and Loud, and that was actually the first time they actually really did see it. It wasn't staged. They didn't get to see the truck first. When we opened the doors, it's the first time they saw it. And so we got the top and behind the scenes cameras with the cameras off. They were all over that thing, and they were just blown away that we had built that in such a short time, because they knew that we might not have made it, but I told them, I said, if we say we're going to make it, we'll make it. And they were great. I still talk to them, and even though I said I quit driving, Richard always says you'll always be a gas monkey. Doesn't matter what. If you're in town, come by. Everybody there is always a good time. We've had a blast with them.
Well, that's cool. You just never know how them things going to work out. So it's cool to hear. You always wonder what people are like, to hear how cool he is. I like that. But one thing we like to really do on here is we like to interact with people, and I'm sure we got a lot of questions and comments coming in for you guys, so I don't want to steal the whole show here. So, Mason, have we got any comments for the lovely couple?
Yeah, we actually have one from Kristen Hope Miguez. Might have been ran on earlier, but we just want to run it back with Lindsey here. Her question is, how did you get started in the industry, and you're one badass chick?
Thanks, girl. And I think you're amazing too. I love watching you and seeing how much you've changed down the way. Like I said earlier, I started off doing construction and roofs and random stuff with my dad and his buddies on the weekends. We built Jim Kohler's shop and started traveling with them. There's no school you can go to learn monster trucks. It's a school of hard knocks. So they're awesome. Of course, back then, I think it was just me and Becky were the only girls around. And everyone was really cool to lend you a helping hand and teach you how to do things. Granted, being a girl, I don't have the same kind of muscles that he has. I'll do the same job, but I've got my own way of doing it. And whether or not they make fun of me, it works. And it's actually pretty funny now, the different techniques and stuff I had to do, just not being as strong. that a lot of these new guys that are coming in that are not so muscular have picked on and helped them along the way. So it's cool to see all the other girls coming out right now.
Yeah, they can't all be me and BJ.
No.
Yeah, one thing with Kristen is this year with me not driving, I was kind of traveling. I watched that girl go from arenas and doing stuff, and we were actually out in Anaheim watching. I just watched her practice, and I went down and I told her, I said, "Hey, you can take this for what it's worth." I said, "But sometimes I had to learn the hard way that sometimes slow is fast." I said, "You are sawing the wheel and you're driving way too hard. If you slow down, you'll be quicker." And she's like, "All right." And a lot of people won't take criticism, because I'm a driver, I know what I'm doing. And she did it the next day, and she put a whipping on everybody. And I was very proud of her, and she did a good job. And she's going to go a long way. She's one of the ones that work on a truck, and so she knows what's going on. When something's wrong, she knows what's wrong.
And like we've always said, she started from the ground up. She started just crewing. But I don't know if she always wanted to drive. Everyone always does. But she started off just crewing and showing the boys up and the same thing. And it's really cool to see another girl actually like kicking ass out there and working because she wanted to be there, not because a boyfriend's there or someone drug her along. It's because that's what her passion was. And then to finally see her in the truck, she's going to be that much more of a better driver because she knows why things are breaking and what she did to break something to fix it for next time. She's not just aiming and shooting. She knows what she's doing. So it's really cool to see her.
She drug her boyfriend along with her.
Yeah, right? Yep.
Going on to another question. This one has to probably be Cam's most favoritely hated question from Levi Shones. And it says, "Hey, BJ and Lindsey, JT Smiths or Hooters?"
Oh, my
Hooters.
God. Seriously?
Hooters.
Go ahead. Hooters?
Hooters.
Okay. There you go. Levi, there's your damn answer.
I had to get out of the way.
Yeah. Okay. I'm making it official right now to Levi Shones, and you're sitting there watching. That is the last time that question will be asked on this podcast. Come up with it. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Let's see. We have one from Brent Ackley saying, "Did you get your hood milk before the podcast?"
So everybody knows a couple of years, let's see, it'd be like 2 3 years ago, I don't know, whenever. When the corporate world tells you that you only do overseas, that's your retirement tour. I don't care what anybody says. So when they said I wasn't traveling in the U.S., I was only doing overseas, I knew I was on my way out the door, not driving. And but I got to train a lot of these new guys. So they actually were sending me out to do stuff, and I built those ride trucks, and I got to travel with a bunch of new guys. And a lot of the guys we had a lot of fun with. Some of them didn't cut it. Some of them just, it doesn't work out. It's not for everybody. We were actually in an airport, and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. We're out of our minds, trying to figure out what we were doing, missing an airplane or whatever. And we got some Cinnabons and we got some milk. And Chris Dixon, I told him, I said, "Man, them Cinnabons are right out of the oven. Be careful, they're hot." And he's like, "Yeah, I got it." Didn't even think about it. Grabbed one, threw it in his mouth. That thing had to been 300 degrees, and he's screaming in the airport. And I said, "Hey, grab your milk." And when we turned and looked at it, it was called hood milk. So I'm like, "Hey, grab your milk from the hood. That's gonna fix it." And we everybody sitting around us was laughing.
It's all over Snapchat.
Oh man, we Snapchatted it, and we had half the airport laughing that morning. And everybody at the airport was like, "Man, you guys are crazy." And we're like, "No, we're just like out of our minds. We're so tired, we don't know what we're doing anymore." But yeah, it was, just them stories on the road, just having
But no,
fun.
we didn't have any today. Sorry.
No.
Oh,
what else you got?
See if we have any good stories like this one from Kevin Lennon saying, "BJ, do you have any good rental car stories?" And we could push the button that way.
There's probably some stories that we shouldn't talk about on here. I will say that I can tell you this, that there's been a lot of them that we've tore up, and I would never buy a rental car. If you ever run into my mom at a show, and everybody knows my mom, Grandma Linda, she's my biggest fan, she won't get in a rental car with me. I mean, you pay the $29 insurance on it, you can drive a thing like Super Mario Kart. You don't care. And we've actually, I've rolled a rental car over on its side. We've ripped the oil pans off of rental cars, and they just kept bringing them to us, and we've had tires blow out, shocks blow out. I've had another really good friend of mine that was teamed up with me decide he was going to run his into the back of mine. We lost both our bumpers on the freeway. So zap screws, duct tape, and everything got all that put back together, and we took it back and never got charged for it. But you have to grow up one day and not tear up your rental car, but that's not me.
I've been in a rental car with you. It's
Yeah, it was a good thing.
It's an adventure. Oh, I could see. I saw what was going on. Facing this way, all of a sudden facing that way, and hey, let's go. We're facing this way again. Let's go.
Not really questions, but 2 good points from Nick and Michael Brister. Nick saying those things do some pretty sweet burnouts and Dodge Caravans. If you offer me one, I'd do it.
Yes. Anybody knows that a Dodge Caravan will smoke the tires for as long as you keep your foot in it. And hats off to Dodge for that one, because soccer mom vans are the fastest things that will burn the tires right off of.
Yeah, it's pretty entertaining when you go to the rental car place. You got a bunch of guys, all big muscular guys, and they're like, well, what do you want? We're like, minivan. The lady's like, excuse me? We're like, we want a Dodge minivan. And it's like, that's the best one. It fits everybody. They're comfortable, and you can kill them, and they still keep going.
I owned one for years.
Yeah.
How many sets of tires you put on it?
Well, it was my wife, so it wasn't me driving it, but several. Trust me, my wife was one of the few soccer mom styles cruising around the minivan doing 90. Just rolling. She wasn't trying, she just rolling.
That's the best rental car you can get.
Yeah.
Good stuff. We actually have one for Lindsey, and it's from Mackenzie Ray saying, Lindsey, got any good stories with Medusa or Becky?
So many. Like, I was with them for years. No, we've always had tons of fun together, hung out. Medusa's awesome. She's always like with my little mom on the road. She was cool. She was one that actually pushed to make sure people knew who I was. She always had the hot crew chief Lindsey with tag me and everything. So it was really cool. It was like the first person that actually like gave me recognition and made people know like, hey, this girl isn't just here to hang out, that I actually work hard and I belong to be here. So like that was one of the biggest things that was so awesome with Medusa. She let people know who I was.
Well, and it's always nice because I know me and you had the same problem when we both first started, is everybody just thought we were both eye candy.
Right.
And you have to fight that. And I mean, I still fight it, but it's nice to see you got the recognition you deserve. I'm getting there. I'm getting better. But still,
maybe
yeah, I mean,
hashtag.
What's that?
That maybe you just need your own hashtag.
Own hashtag hotblindguy.com.
There you go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm bringing sexy back.
Good.
Here's a question for BJ from Joe Crawley saying, BJ, when we traveled through airports, when people asked, we told people we were tricycle racers and what?
Oh, we were tricycle racers and we were ostrich racers. We were actually downhill big wheel racers and ostrich racers.
Yeah.
So
there comes a time where you just don't want to tell everybody everything. As soon as you say that, hey, I work on monster trucks, they've got a million questions, and sometimes you just are over it. You're tired, you're exhausted, you want to drink and be stupid and not have anybody know what you do for a living.
You don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yes.
It's kind of our time. So that was always a big joke that we had, and a lot of people do it. A lot of us did it. And it was just, hey, what do you guys do? What do you guys are? Because if we're in a restaurant or a bar or somewhere and there's a big group of us, because all of us are together, what do you guys do? And there'd be 5 people say the same thing, like, oh, we're in town for the downhill big wheel racing. And we've said it before, and people were like, there's not even a hill in town. We're like, oh, they're building one in the parking lot at so-and-so. And they're like, oh, I've seen something like that. You just roll with it, and
oh yeah. Yeah, I could damn it shit I've made up over the years about what I do, and not all of it was clean.
Yeah,
I mean,
the joke of the ostrich racer, we always said that, and we never really had. You could always find a big wheel picture, you know, or you can find someone. The guys at the mud parks do it all the time now. They do the hill races, so it's easy to get a picture of that. But no one ever had a picture of an ostrich with an ostrich. So Scott Lidico, actually in Australia, we were at a this big, huge petting zoo with these. We could lay down with kangaroos. I mean, it was crazy. Hold koala bears. I mean, there was like no rules over there. Lidico actually took a selfie with an ostrich, and it was the funniest thing you've ever seen.
The best selfie ever.
And he always kept it right at the top of his photos, so that if we were somewhere, like, what are you guys doing? He's like, oh, I race the ostriches. We're just in town for the ostrich races at such and such a park. And he would make it up every time. People were like, oh, where's that at? It's like, oh, it's outside of town. Man, that's just hard to believe. And he would just pick his phone up and be like, well, here, look, this is my buddy right here, and show him the picture of his selfie. And
if you guys find the picture, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best selfie pictures I've ever seen, because the ostrich is right over his shoulder, and Scott would just roll with it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you how many cities I've been in town for the adult toy convention. Being a salesman.
Yeah. Make up something.
I've sold.
Tell them what you
Oh yeah.
Do.
Yeah, I've sold a lot of adult toys over the years.
Our little gig that me and Austin had during tour, whenever we had to get an Uber ride, I would be a computer technician and he'd be a security guard. And we both look like dirty as shit. We'd still have grease and everything under our fingernails. And we just sell it off. It's like, yeah, I work on the computers at the stadium here. It's like, yeah, I just did the early shift. We're just getting off now. It's like, so why are you going to a hotel? We just bought a hotel here. We're only here for a little bit.
We're fixing computers in the basement.
Yeah.
Laying on the ground.
Yeah, and I was securing him by laying on top of him and under him.
Here's actually another one for Lindsey from Levi, asking, though I never got to work with you in person, what was the hardest part working as a pit party coordinator?
Dealing with us.
Dealing with all the crew.
Park on
Yeah,
time.
dealing with all the crew guys that don't want to move their trucks.
Yeah, that's about the biggest thing. Luckily, everybody's known me for years and knows how to the point I am with everybody. So they were always pretty good about it. I'm like, just be honest with me, 10 minutes or 45 minutes. Like, is this a today or tomorrow? So that was the hardest thing, and just learning the different roles. I've done mechanics for so long that I have to switch the professional role and present yourself differently to people, and there's just a lot to coordinate at one person. Everything in that pit party, between the dirt coming in, the outhouses, the fencing, all the different sponsors and the people, and your phone doesn't stop all day long. So you have to be really good at multitasking and making stuff up on the fly, pretty much. I was one of those people that you kind of ask for forgiveness, not permission. And for the most part, as long as I had a foot to stand on, we just went with it, and it worked out pretty well for me. So I liked it.
Yeah, luckily some of us knew you long enough that we just ignored you.
Or there's that. Yep. Or there's that. But I don't go away easily. So.
Yeah.
You always wanted a hug. Don't give me that. Between you,
she always asked for a hug. She always instigates a hug. Look, you can't. She wants to hug this. Can't blame her. I've known her longer than you. You shut up.
Yeah.
Very true.
All right. Go ahead and taking it back to BJ one more time from Frank Patelli. Which was your favorite truck to drive over the years and why? Also, hi, Lindsey.
Hi, Frank.
We sat down one night and tried to figure out how many trucks and tanks and stuff that I've drove. Probably the most powerful one, which was slam you in the seat and you're just hanging on for dear life, was my barefoot truck. The old Fred Schaefer Penda Series trucks that I drove were probably the fastest, biggest motored things. I mean, they were pretty much an all-out drag car on 66s. The most out of control and wild thing would be California Kid. That truck is still probably the funnest truck to drive, but it's not a forgiving truck. So you can't jump a school bus and land 40 feet out on the other side with that thing, because you're going to be upside down eating dirt. So it did a lot of wheelies in it, a lot of stuff. And everybody that ever drove it, Devin Jones, Donald Ependendio, Ed Miller, all those guys, they always rolled it end over end. and I was the only one at the time. And I think there's some guys now that have gotten pretty good in it, but I never rolled it end over end because the motor's sitting between your legs. Your feet are on both sides of the blower hat, you know, and you only had one way out, which that's through the roof. The windows being so chopped on the side, you can't get out with the helmet on. So I didn't ever want to take it end over end because I didn't know if I could get out of it. I did roll it over, but I always made sure it was on its side. Never really turtled it. But that was probably the funnest truck to drive, especially in an arena. There's no one that could touch you if you were in an arena. And I always said it, all these triple threat shows and all these arena shows, if somebody would build a bunch of short wheelbase trucks, there'd be no one touching them. These guys are doing these crazy tricks in these big long trucks that we have now. You put them in a short wheelbase truck and you'd see some wild stuff.
Well, talk about the tanks. I mean, what was it like driving the tanks too?
So like driving the tanks is just like get on the roof of your house and jump out with your feet out in front of you, land on your butt in the yard. So Craig Christensen actually had a tank. It was actually, and tanks have been around forever. So I think Sam Sturgis had it, and then Craig bought it, and it sat behind Craig's forever. Mikey wanted to put it together, and we never did. And Craig drove it for a while. When Craig drove it, he had his mom ride with him and broke her back. You know, there's no suspension in these things. And then somehow Scott Anderson got it, and they had a S10 body on it. It was the Grim Reaper, and then they changed it around and had a Jeep on it. And Scott was driving the monster truck one weekend, and I was living in Idaho, and he called me, and he goes, "Hey, man, will you come up here a second? I need a hand." And I got up there, and Scott just laughed. He goes, "Hey, you want to drive this thing?" I said, "What do you want me to do with it?" And he goes, "Just drive it through a mobile home." And he was just straight faced, like he didn't even care. And I'm like, okay. Like, you know, I was like, all right, yeah, why? Well, then he couldn't get a mobile home to do this stunt we were going to do. So Scott says, well, we'll put a car out there. He says, as long as you jump and land on the cars, it's not that bad. So I said, all right. And it's air shift, you know, and it just had a big block in it. It didn't have a blower motor anymore. But it was fun to drive. But, man, when you landed, like you could probably feel that thing in 2 states away because it felt like it was going to go through the ground. And I actually messed up and did the car and didn't realize that I caught the last car and took it with me. Well, when I turned around and came back for the van wide open, it was kind of dark, and you're in a Jeep body thing, Jeep Willie's body, and it was the Pure Hell truck or tank. And I came for this van wide open, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to get up on the top and slam on the brakes. Well, there was no car in front of it. And I broadsided the side of this Dodge van, old school Dodge van. That thing went straight up in the ground. I thought, yeah, this is going to be bad. And it came off the other side and hit. When it did, it blew the doors off of it from hitting on the ground. And I just got out and waved and kind of walked behind the rodeo chutes of this fairgrounds we were at. And I was like trying to catch my breath. And Scott was like, man, that was awesome. You need to do that again. And I just looked at him like, not a chance in hell. No way. You can forget all that, buddy. It ain't happening. But they were fun. You know, those tanks now, I honestly want to say there was 2 of them floating around there that Scott had. And I think that's the one that Bill Payne's got now. So
right.
They're still out running around.
Well, I know Ryan Rice had one for a while too.
Yep.
I don't know which one it was, but yeah, he had one for a while. I'm probably still sitting on it.
The only guy that was smart with the tanks was Sam Sturgis had a big long tank with a blower motor that was set up for driving through stuff. And Mike Welch had one that was actually cut and shortened. So every time he took off, he'd ride a wheelie in it because the tracks were backwards, kind of like the Major Payne tank is now.
Oh,
they all knew not to jump them, you know, and some of us put our helmets on and shut our brains off. And I decided, I was going to jump this thing. And we were jumping 6 and 8 cars and landed on the last car. And sometimes you wouldn't land on the last car. And it would hit and feel every bone in your body pop.
Get out, pull your spine from your throat, and wave to the crowd.
Pick up your teeth off the ground.
Everyone's like, what? Yeah. I'm like, because I can't get out of the seat. You just see my hand. I'm like, yeah. Yeah. I think that's about the only thing I can move right now.
What else you got, Mason?
It's actually a chain going on. We have one from Brister saying, Mason, you better ask all my questions to them. And to Mike, don't worry, I am. I'm just getting past all the stuff that Brent and Michael Gromek were fighting about. Let's go to the top here. See the first question.
First, tell Brister I need to return my phone call.
Okay, well, now that we're on live, yeah, go ahead and check that phone number or phone call that just came right to you right now. And now we're going to Brister saying, yeah, got a couple things. Lindsey, am I invited to the baby shower?
Only if you promise to bring me stuff. I need diapers. I don't need any clothes, but I need a bunch of other things. I have a baby register.
Yeah, but do you need stuff for the baby?
What?
But do you need stuff for the baby?
yeah. Oh, not BJ. Okay, so yeah, the baby needs diapers also. Some butt ointment. Go on Amazon or Bye Baby.
The one cool thing being out here in Florida working at the Feld shop is all these guys that moved from everywhere. Like Brister was from California. They all moved out here, and there was a lot of new guys. They didn't have families. We always had like a misfit Thanksgiving. So all those guys that couldn't go home for Thanksgiving would come here. They'd come to our house. And we'd swim in the pool, and we had an RC track for a while. We've got land here. So a lot of the guys we met, and they're always over here hanging out and partying with us, and some of the guys lived with us for a while. I mean, it was pretty chaotic there for a while. Now that we got a baby coming, it's going to calm down.
Maybe.
Probably not.
I've always been the mama bear to all the boys, but we've always had lots of fun.
Okay, talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
Goodbye.
All right. Well, Kim takes an important phone call. The second one from Mike Brister is, BJ, when's that mega truck going to be built?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean that pile of steel that's sitting out there?
Yeah, so Brister actually bought a mega truck, and I have a shop, and he bought the truck, we tore it apart, and we were getting ready to start building the frame when all of us lost our jobs with this whole COVID thing. So all the steel's sitting there, all the welders, everything's sitting in the shop now, and everybody's starting new jobs and all this other stuff. It's just taking time, buddy. We're going to get on it pretty quick. Then we'll have a new toy to play with.
All right. Let's see. Here's one from Gromek saying, BJ, did you ever get to drive the general truck when you were with Bill Payne?
Yes. So we did a show, Monster X show, and it was kind of a big mess we won't get into, but we didn't have enough drivers for the truck. So we were jumping from truck to truck, and Bill was driving it and I was driving it. And you guys need to remember that not all these trucks had ISP seats that were fitted for us. They just had a regular beard seat in them. We would jump in them and drive, So I actually drove it once. It was actually a lot of fun to drive. It's old Terry Woodcock chassis. So it's one of them trucks that it was real forgiving. It'd ride wheelies off the toter tires if you put them out there. But Bill would run that truck into the ground, and I think he did it just because he didn't like it. That was one truck that he did not like.
I'm back.
Right.
No, we missed you.
Thanks. I apparently did not check the battery life on this, and so it beeped at me and said it's about ready to die. So I thought I might want to go get it.
Battery like this? Is that why you're like, oh, that battery's getting low?
Yeah, something like that. It resembled that.
I thought you were checking out through the camera. I didn't know you were looking at the battery.
I was trying to do a selfie.
Taking it back with someone else that you may have know or worked with, we have one from Mike Christensen actually saying, want to come join Team Throttle Monsters, come back out. We're coming back out with the new Captain Insano.
Yeah, probably not. No,
I mean, when they say they're coming out with a new one, it's going to be the original one.
Yeah. It'll be
It's still that one.
You're buying Swamp Thing back from overseas, which was the original Captain Insano. I'll buy that. But if it's a new one, probably not. Those guys are doing good, though.
Unless you're doing a Florida show, he's for hire on weekends.
Yeah, if anybody needs a driver in Florida, just let me know. I don't want to travel no more. I like being home.
Sissy. What happened? Kids, that's what happened. Kids ruin everything. Oh, I mean, it's great having kids.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as we come to the 50-minute mark here on our podcast, one question we always like to ask our guests is what their favorite on-the-road story or moment, or just like what their favorite thing on the road like in the past was. Like, so for you two, just maybe making two stories. For you two, what was your favorite on-the-road story back in the good old days?
Ooh.
And nothing that's going to get you like statute of limitations or, anything like that.
Politically correct.
Yeah, somewhat.
Trouble.
Somewhat.
Me. That was pretty epic.
What's that?
Meeting me.
Okay, can we go with something interesting?
Oh, ouch. I don't know about on the road story, but just like all the places traveling, that's probably been by far the coolest thing. Never in a million years, girl out of Michigan thought I'd go as far as I have and as many places. New Zealand, we got to spend a whole week just having fun in New Zealand without work, which was super amazing. All the times to Australia, and then this past year I got to go to Africa. That was once in a lifetime thing. I got to walk with the lions, and we did so many cool things. So that's,
Did you just say you walked with a lion?
yes, I did. Multiple
How in
lions.
the bloody hell do you do that? Because that just does not seem. I mean, there's
They
no
have
killer radio.
the park, they raise them, and then they had to keep the lions all in front of us because there was a big group of us there. And he would throw like baby chicks. They're dead, natural causes, I think. And the lions would chase after them, and then we actually all got to walk down the road like behind them, and it was so cool. 2 of them got in a fight on the way. It was awesome.
I wasn't there for that. That was her.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
such a cool experience.
I don't give a rat's ass how tame they are. I ain't walking with a damn lion. There ain't a
In the
fence in
wild.
between. Yeah. I mean, they have these shows like, when animals attack. It's shit like that is exactly when that stuff gets video. We're like, normally this never happens when this guy gets mauled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
I
as
do that
long as
tonight.
you're not the oldest and the slowest, you got good chances. So
Well, odds are I'm probably the slowest. I don't exactly trim these days.
You look at you going, that's a meal right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that king lion's looking at me going, I could feed the whole family. What about you, BJ? You gotta have one.
There's been some wild stories.
It's hard to come up with.
Back in the, I will say, like back in the day when we were running the rigs down the road and stuff, it was like we were trying to live this rock star lifestyle. I would say we were like high class carnies. Like we would just show up in your town, we did it for 2 days partying and goofing off and racing, and we'd load them up and leave. And so there's always one that cracks me up. And we did a show in Missouri, and it was me, Larry Swim, Doug Nelke with Big Dog. Charlie Pauken was there. There was a bunch of us there. I was actually there not driving. I was crewing for Larry. Larry blew a motor up the first show, and we weren't that far from our shop in Pontoon Beach. So Paul called and says, hey, why don't you run back and go grab your truck and trailer? So I ran back and grabbed the truck and trailer, came back. And by the time I got there, it was probably 8 o'clock at night. Now, by this time, the second show was over. Paul's trucks missed a show. I got there, was tiring up, and if anybody knows the Big Dog crew at the time, they would make deep fried pickles and they'd do deep fried turkeys, and we'd always just hang out in the pits, and have a few drinks and relax, and it was just our time. We all stayed in our rigs, and we had Fred's old barefoot racer hauler, so we had a motorhome to stay in. And somehow there was some bottles getting passed around, and everyone was told not to get on their four-wheelers, not to be doing nothing stupid, and I just remember a headlight coming at me through our camp, and it didn't look right. Like, I'm like, what is that? And as it came by, it was Charlie Pauken's on a four-wheeler with a helmet and neck collar on, no shirt and shorts. And he was riding on 2 wheels on its side and rolled right by us, and I'm like, Chucky, what are you doing? He says, I'll be back. And we're like, all right, it's pitch black out here. We're at the backside of a speedway. And all of a sudden, here come the light back, and he didn't realize that the back ramp door was down on the barefoot hauler, and rode it up inside the hauler and crashed it into the toolbox and come flying out the side door. And he stood up. I'll never forget it, because the first thing he said when the helmet was about right here, you only see this much of him, right? It was sideways, and he still had his neck collar, and he goes, I'm safe. I got my helmet on. And that was it. And he just went and sat down in the chair, and that was the end of it. And we left the four-wheeler. The next morning, we walked in there, and there was a four-wheeler upside down in our trailer, and the toolbox all smashed. And stuff like that was years ago was the reason we loved being out on the road and hanging out, because it was just a big family hangout at the end of the show, and the memories of stuff like that I'll never forget. And we would laugh about it and talk about it and just have a good time with it.
Absolutely.
So much more connected back then, because back when I started, we did tons of 4-wheel jamborees, and we had the toter, so you would stay there where every single night everyone cooked out together. We'd all hang out. Sometimes I'd have a bonfire, and it was really fun because you all just sat around and bullshitted the whole time. Where now I feel like it's so separated. This little group goes to that bar, and this group goes to that bar. It's not like it was back when you did all the speedways and everyone just kind of hung out as a group.
Well, I can remember the only time I traveled in them toter homes when I was working for Tim Minte's team. And there was multiple times that I woke up in a lawn chair next to Steve Thompson in another lawn chair
Yeah.
with the sun coming up. It's like, we got beds and AC in there, and they never made it.
Yeah. But it was fun.
Oh, yeah. I love those days.
Some of the guys now, they still a lot of the independent guys still do stuff like that. Like John Gordon, Big Matt, and the Dish Runes and stuff, Sticks, all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
They'll camp out, and I would hang out with them a little bit this year after a show, because they were staying in the parking lot. So they would do what we used to do, and it was so much fun. That was the part of the monster trucks that I missed.
Yep. Yeah, those definitely are the fun nights, and that's it's fun when everybody can get together and sit and trade stories, and we all talk about something stupid we did, and that's what makes it all worth it when you can do that on a Saturday or Sunday night after it's all said and done, especially if the junk's ready to go in the trailer or already in the trailer.
Yeah.
You got anything else there, Mr. Mason?
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and list off our 3 last good questions here. We have one from my good buddy Cody Spencer asking, BJ, what was your favorite show you've ever done?
Oh, there's been so many.
Australia?
Probably one of the coolest ones I ever did is when I filled in for Medusa. I was just there working. I was a backup driver. Didn't even think about I was going to be driving that truck, and she had gotten injured. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do, trying to figure out seats, trying to figure out all this stuff. And it was pretty much RL. If anybody ever done overseas, RL was actually Medusa's old crew chief. And he was like this mean little pirate, and everybody just loved him to death. But God, he was so ornery. And he just was like, hey, man, I don't need that truck tore up. I just need to go. You need to do what you need to do, and nothing was ever staged. Everyone's like, oh, it's staged, it's wrestling. It's not, okay? We might be told how to run in freestyle because maybe some trucks have crashed and we haven't filled our time and the people aren't getting their money's worth. But when it comes to racing and anything like that, it's all out war. It's when you put your helmet on, everybody wants to win. And RL, I remember RL popping up in the cab with me and was just like, he's like, all right, well, I know you haven't drove this before, but it's just another truck, but let's just go through the motions. I'm like, all right, well, then I win first round and I come back and tell Lindsey, I'm like, hey, get this thing plugged in. So she was already on it. I went out and won another round, run another round. And RL comes up and she's like, man, this thing's leaking out of everywhere. And Lindsey's like, I know it's not used to going this many rounds, and I was in the cab just laughing. I didn't even realize I was going to the finals. The truck's like 220 degrees. It barely started. And I went out and I was racing against Carl Van Horn. The track was kind of slick and it was my track. That's the slicker the tracks are, the funner was for me, and I drive harder. And I pretty much held that thing on the floor against Remloader, didn't care if it shot the rods out on the ground or what, but I was going to win that race. And I ended up winning it. And it was kind of an emotional win for everybody just because Medusa had gotten hurt. I hadn't won a stadium race, and it was just something that I needed at the time, and it was a long dry spell there after that, but it didn't matter. I was the first racing champion in Adelaide, and a lot of people are like, oh, big deal, but it is a big deal for us because I'm the first one to ever do it there.
Right.
Wild was out there going to American Woman,
Yeah.
which is the best, wearing the pink crew shirt. We spray painted his mohawk pink. It was a really cool moment. It was the first time we'd ever actually worked together on the same truck. So it was pretty special altogether. And then the very first time he ever drove it, he won.
Until you hear about 10,000 Australians singing American Woman with the song, that's probably the coolest thing you've ever. I was just like, are they singing this song right now? And Medusa's like, yeah, it's my song. And I'm like, listen, they're singing it word for word. That was cool. It was a big win for us, and I needed it. It had been a long time.
Monster trucks, gotta love them.
Good times.
What else?
One from Michael Gromek saying, any show you win at Snats. Not sure if that's an inside joke because a lot of people are reacting to that comment.
Let me show you when it's. Oh, Cody Schnatz. Cody crewed for me at my last show driving. And I showed up in Brazil, and he was a nervous wreck. You know, I've had crew guys. I've had crew guys that are more nervous before I get in the truck and go than they are. I just told him, I was like, "Hey man, it is what it is. If the truck breaks, it breaks." And he was so concerned about that truck staying together for me for my very last time driving. And a lot of us knew it, and a lot of people didn't. And we did the first show, and everything went smooth. And I just took a bad hit, left my foot in it, thought I could save it, and couldn't, and crashed it. And one of them days, it was 2 hours between the shows. It was raining. It was horrible. I went and took a break between shows, came back, first round of racing, jumped the truck, and I told him something's wrong. This thing's beat me to death. I'm like, I don't know what it is, but we're just going to let it ride. And I actually had crew guys come across the radio that night and tell me, you know, burn that thing to the ground because you're never going to drive again. And first hit out, that thing about knocked me out. And I told Cody, I said, this ain't going to be good. And I jumped the whole tabletop coming back the other way and blew all the shocks off the front, which they shut me off. And I was done. Pretty much my career was done. And I came back to the pits and threw my steering wheel through the front windshield because it wasn't there. And it landed up in the crowd where all the crew guys were sitting. And I came up, and I think Cody was more upset than I was. But everybody knew just to leave me alone for a minute. And I just looked at him. I said, hey, man, don't be upset and don't be sorry. It is what it is. You know, and everybody's like, man, you were so mad at him. I said, I wasn't mad at him. I said, it was it's just heartbreaking when something like that happens, especially when I knew that was it.
God, this got depressing.
All right, let's see if we can fix it up here with this last question and raise our spirits a bit, because we have one from Linda Elrod Johnson saying the PJ, Porterville, California story.
That's Grandma Linda. So
what was the question?
Anybody that does shows sees this little lady walking around that has a gas monkey shirt and says BJ's mom. Okay. And little
a big old camera.
Big old huge camera, little Drew. Some of the videos I've posted, you see Drew and my mom together cheering. I've put her in music videos and stuff. Her and my father let me do this crazy lifestyle I've done. And I always say that, you know, she's my biggest fan. She would buy every single toy. If it was Mohawk Warrior, Gas Monkey, if she could buy it, she'd buy it. And if somebody couldn't get one, she'd buy it and send it to them. And she still does it. And I get on to her about it because I'm like, Mom, knock it off. But she loves monster trucks. She loves it. She's very upset that I'm not driving anymore. And I told her, I said, I might fill in here and there. But they always look forward to coming to all the shows in California. They traveled a lot. They'd bring my daughter when she was young to the shows and stuff. But you can ask anybody about Grandma Linda, and 90% of the people know who my mom is, you know, and it's great. The Scott Douglas and Leslie Mears told me one time, I made a pass in Las Vegas. The first time I've done, which was the Young Gun Shootout, and I'll say it, I don't care. First pass I did in Vegas, my mom ran down the grandstands, down the seats, good, and they made sure nobody was sitting next to her. She was making a pass just like I was. And she always cheered me on, and they're like, we want to put a camera on her because you could hear my mom screaming over the trucks running, you know, and that was the reason that there was a lot of times I was like, I'm over it. I don't care no more. And my mom would be like, hey, good luck, you know, and she'd always text me, or I'd text her before I go. And I always texted my daughters and Lindsey, if she wasn't with me, I'm like, hey, I'm getting ready to go because you never know what's going to happen. And my mom was always just like, oh, do your best, you know, and it was like burn it into the ground, or she'd say something crazy like that and just crack me up. And if you go to any monster truck show and you can sit by my mother, it's worth the price of admission right there.
We get people that video his mom watching her watch BJ. And she literally will run up and down the stands and hoot and holler and scream. She tries to take pictures, but she's not good at running and taking pictures. And
my mom will be cheering and like this, I'm going to take a picture. Go! And the pictures are like.
But we love Grandma Linda horrible. So much.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, guys. I just want to thank you guys very much for coming on. It's been a blast having you guys. Once again, congratulations on the baby.
Thank you.
Any last closing words for those watching?
Well, if anyone's moving to Tampa Bay area, I sell real estate. Hit me up on Facebook.
Did she just do a plug on your cast?
I have a baby.
Monster.
So anybody
Monster
No.
cat. Realtor.com.
This is my time. Thank you. You said anything I wanted to say.
I stand corrected.
But no, thank you very much for having us on. We've had fun.
Yeah. Just remember, I mean, it's with everything that's going on, monster trucks will be back. It might be a while and it might be a little different, but they'll be back. It's just going to take some time. And who knows, you might see me again. Or I'll just be back on here.
Well, yeah, if we can't get you behind the wheel, then maybe we'll just start bringing you on as like a guest commentator.
Deal.
As
Well,
long
guys-
as it's before 8 p.m.
Yeah, before it's as long as it's before 8 o'clock, I gotta go to bed.
We'll always make sure we do the afternoon episodes with BJ.
There you go.
Because everybody wants to see BJ in the afternoon.
That's right.
BJ's just not common enough in the afternoon. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying. Not enough BJ in the afternoon. That's all I'm saying. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you very much. You guys be well, and hopefully we will see you guys down the road soon.
You'll see
Yeah.
us. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Of course. See you.
All right, Mason, I believe you have a couple sponsors to talk about before we go tonight.
Of course. We have our current sponsors still with us today. We have the Spur Hot Sauce, and the Spur Hot Sauce is a Florida-based business that mixes the Western, Eastern styles and flavors. Go ahead and give them a try by going to their Facebook and their Instagram page, which is the Spur Hot Sauce, and go ahead and tell them MonsterCast sent you. They're doing great stuff, and like Shane was saying, they actually have another flavor, and they're working on multiple things going on right now. We also have Monster Truckinator TV, which is the place to go on Facebook for all things new and old Monster Jam related. Monster Jam, Monster Trucks, anything, you name it. That's the channel to go to on Facebook.
Well, we got maybe a couple cool things coming up with Truckinator here pretty soon, so hopefully we'll have something like that in the works. I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. I appreciate everybody joining us early. Make sure you join us Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central. We will have the Krusty Krab himself, Mr. Crustacean, Greg Witchenbach and Batch, whatever how you say his last name, from the great up north. So make sure you guys join us for that. Mason, any wise words to end with?
No,
Okay.
I haven't got any.
All right. Well, we will see you guys Wednesday night.
All right, see you.
Young man, hard man, shouting in the street, gonna take on the world.